Good afternoon and welcome to the Administration, Finance, Recreation and Parks, Public Safety and Public Works Committee meeting for March 10th, 2020. The purpose of the committee meetings are for the city departments to pass along information to the city council and discuss initiatives listed on the published agenda. By ordinance, the committee consists of the mayor, members of the city council, and the city administrator. The ordinance mandates the city administrator as the chair of the committee meetings. By ordinance, the committee makes no formal decisions on committee matters. Rather, items are voted to move to a mayor and council meeting for consideration and vote, or staff receives guidance from the committee regarding the matter. This is a public meeting, but not a public hearing. Therefore, while the meeting is open to the public, we do not take public comments or questions during the committee meetings. Public comments or questions are received at the regular city council meetings held at 7 p.m. in the city council chambers on the second and fourth Monday of each month. The first item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes for the Administration, Finance, and Recreation and Parks Committee meeting for February 11th, 2020. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Motion approved by Councilmember Tizer. Is there a
Second.
Second by Councilmember Judy. Any further questions or discussion? All in favor, please raise your hands. It's unanimous. Thank you. Moving on to administration. Nothing for administration. Moving on to finance. Item number 2, discussion of information provided for procurement agenda items. Mr. Luckett. Mr. Anderson.
Good afternoon, everyone. So at the last committee meeting, we provided some information about the purchasing process and heard some feedback from the committee about the need for more consistent information regarding procurement agenda items. So in your packet, we have provided 2 examples. It's our recommendation, a suggestion that we stick with the memo as a way to convey this information to you all. Some things require a little more explanation than others, and so that's a good way for us to convey that information to the council. So we provided 2 examples for you in your packet on page 12. It starts with, this was just an example RFP. With an RFP, the memo that explains kind of the entire process, what occurred, the recommendation, and then we've also provided the actual RFP that was advertised as information. That's kind of what we would recommend. If you flip back to page 57 in your packets, that's an example of an ITB, or an invitation to bid memo that is a little different because obviously there's no evaluation committee. It's more of a responsibility, and then whoever is the low bid. So that's an example of what that memo looks like. The page after that, you see the bid opening form. So as the bids were read at a public meeting, those prices were written down for public record. And then we've also provided the actual invitation to bid so that you can see that full documentation of what was actually advertised. So that is kind of our recommendation and suggestion. And I'll just leave it at that. And we're open to any feedback, suggestions, recommendations.
Floor is open.
So here's the feedback. I think what brought about this discussion is really just wanting some consistency, because I'd say from the memo format standpoint, the memo format works great. I'd say, providing everything would be too much information, and the issue I've seen is there's been times where there's been somewhat of a grid, a graph, something, just to give a really high level of just those details, and there have been other times when that's been non-existent. We know earlier this year there was one case where there was none of that level of detail.
Yes.
And so an example I'd actually give is, if we look at packet page 209, we have one currently where there's multiple bids. That's an example where that's more information than where we saw earlier this year. At the same time, I'd also actually bring up that we have had some situations in the past where you've had some more information. I think, if we use packet page 209 as an example, I think it's very helpful. It shows the amount from each. If I look at what I see as pertinent information, I think is relevant. I know in the past you've shared kind of when some are Roswell bidders, because that's something that gives gets some consideration, depending on the other details, as well as any other situation where you feel there's something relevant. As we go to this one, you have some write-up regarding, landscape. It's not the cheapest, but there's some reason
Right.
that you feel it's the best choice. And so I'd say it's just a summary level of just how is it clear to the council, clear to the residents, here were the different ones that provided. We've got one that was withdrawn. We've got some that were non-responsive, and just showing just in a condensed manner of what we're looking at. So I think the majority of the ones you've done have been excellent. They've been in memo format. They've been just high-level summary, and it's just a matter of the consistency so that we can really see that high-level big picture.
Okay, thank you.
Got everything you need? Thank you. Thank you, gents.
Thank you.
Moving on to Recreation and Parks, item number 3, consideration to award a contract to Landmark Landscapes for landscaping services for initial term ending June 30th, 2020, and a maximum of 5 annual renewals in an amount not to exceed $74,109. Mr. Pruitt, Mr. Letterman.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Council, Mr. Palmer, Mr. Halsey, Olivia. Mr. Leatherman would like me to present the first item on our agenda for the award of the landscape contract. This came about midway through last budget year. Our existing contractor abandoned the contract and was unable to meet the demands set by the city. So we had to go to the second and third bidder at that time in order to get City Hall and the other 3 items in front of the law enforcement, the Lita Thompson Memorial Garden complex, complete for the remaining year. Then we worked with purchasing division to bid out the proposals for the upcoming year. We piggybacked along with transportation, public works, environmental, and the fire department to do one huge bid across the city to maintain right-of-ways, etc. So we worked together very well with purchasing. Our specific bid, I think Councilmember Palermo referred to part of the information. We received 8 bids, one of them withdrawn, which was actually the individual that canceled us in the middle of the year last year. So good chuckle. That was very appropriate to be handled that way. So we received the other bids, and through the process, as Greg and Ryan stated, several of them were non-responsive because they did not supply the required information or had the personnel that we required to maintain such a high level of the landscaping that this mayor and council has allowed us to put in City Hall complex over the last couple of years. So we were able to surmise through the process that the company Landmark Landscape should be awarded the landscape services from the term beginning in June 30th of this year, and maximum renewals, hopefully we can get a company that will stay with us in the amount not to exceed $74,109. In the FY20 budget, the amount was approved for $88,750 for those services through city complex as well as Lita Thompson Gardens.
Floor's open.
Thank you, Mr. Pruitt. I have a couple questions. So one question I have is, I want to understand how the renewal option works. Is the renewal option, are we tied into it, unless there's a, for cause reason to not renew? Or is it something a matter along the lines of, we have the right to renew, but we also have the right to pursue other, how does that work?
Yes, sir. It's the latter. We have the right to rebid it at the end. If we feel there's a better company, a newer, more improved company comes in and presents itself, or if we're very satisfied with the existing vendor and would like to extend for 1, 2, or 5 years.
Okay, thank you. And so that definitely gives me more comfort with my next question, knowing that there's definitely that flexibility. So I guess this is actually probably, Mr. Pruitt, less to you and Mr. Other and more Ryan. I want to just mention, you know, at the end of the day, given the fact that we're going based on landmark is the lowest cost of the responsive, I think when there is the unresponsive one at the lower rate, I think it's helpful just to have some quick, high-level summary explanation why, because frankly, I think certainly in the council meeting with, you know, during the public comment, that question could certainly come up. And so I think it would just be helpful to understand when there's the lower bid ones, what made them unresponsive. I'm not pushing you for the answer right now. Again, given the answer to your first question, I feel a lot more comfortable with it, but that's just something that I think is helpful information.
Bid specifications stated that the supplier must staff at least one position with a person who has a 4-year degree in horticulture. 3 vendors did not meet this criteria. 1 vendor withdrew their bid.
There's 4 vendors that were unresponsive. So I guess I just be curious to know. This one, again, I'm fine with it. I'm comfortable with this. I'm more of just discussing more for future discussion when there are different ones, because there's 4 that were unresponsive, and it mentions that 3 were deemed non-responsive. Again, I'm comfortable with this. I appreciate you bringing this. I'm just more focused on process in the future.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve, is there a second?
Second.
Motion approved by Councilmember Judy, second by Councilmember Tizer. Any further questions or discussion? All in favor, please raise your hands. It's unanimous, thank you. Item number 4, notification of emergency procurement for Old Mill Park Historic Rock Wall. Mr. Litt.
Mr. Pruitt's going to stick around for this one as well. He's been working with our contractors and doing the site inspections along with our staff. This is an information item to let the council and inform the council know that we did initiate our emergency purchasing contract provisions for a project down at Old Mill Park. For those looking and watching, this is just an overhead shot down by the covered bridge. We have the machine shop, and then the smaller building to the right where the arrow is pointing is the restroom building next to the machine shop. And in February, we had a failure of the wall right behind that restroom facility. Those are, and I'll just run through some photos, but essentially a portion of the original wall behind the building and adjacent to the machine shop failed. If you recall, at the beginning of February, we had a couple of days of significant rainfall and a couple of hours of heavy rainfall, and that is when we discovered this issue. This is just behind the restroom building, and you can see, due to the failure of the wall, we started to see the failure of the walkway that is kind of more of a maintenance walkway behind the building. Staff mobilized. We got the area sandbagged and tarped, and then initiated our emergency procurement services and procedures in order to get an engineer on site and a contractor on site to start the repairs of that wall. This is some of the management practices that we put in place in order to connect the creek behind us. At that point in time, it was much more of a river. And then this is the initial stages of the repairs to that system. Staff was able to activate fast enough, along with the city procurement department and our city administrator's help, in essentially getting this area stabilized so that we didn't have failure of the wall in other portions. And then we are now in the process of restoring that wall. And what will end up happening with the finished product is we're putting back a block wall in place, and then we'll actually frontage or faux the wall in front with a matching rock surface, so that it looks back to the original look and feel of the wall that's adjacent to it, that's the original wall, and also above it. We'll use some of the original material where we can. Total project costs right now, we're estimating with engineer construction and the repositioning of our HVAC equipment, of about $250,000 for the entirety of the project. And we anticipate, pending weather, will be done right around March 20th. Or close to This will also require a budget amendment that we've put in the packet, and be happy to answer any questions that you may have regarding this notification.
Is that it?
That's it.
We don't need anything on that, so if there's, are there any questions from the council?
The Mayor's got a question.
Where did you locate the funding to make these reports?
Right now, we're requesting a budget amendment that will come from fund balance at this point, but there hasn't been a direct location of that funding. I'll check with Ryan, is that?
Yeah, it'll be from our available fund balance in the general fund.
Thank you.
We'll have a budget amendment that'll come to council for formal.
Thank you. And I would like to thank staff for being able to move on this. That includes finance. You all have been very swift to take care of this. And finance, everybody's on board on taking care of this. We recognize the need. It's a historic structure and we want to stabilize it. So I really appreciate your hard work on this and thank you for taking care of it.
Motion to approve.
We don't need a motion
No
on
need?
this.
Good.
No, this is an information item.
Love it.
Go. Thanks, gents.
You bet.
Moving on to other items, number 5, committee, Councilmember Wilsey, consideration of a resolution in support of the Chattahoochee Nature Center's capital campaign.
Yes, this is a resolution that's asking for your support to move it forward to the mayor and council. It's a resolution that basically shows the city's support for Chattahoochee Nature Center as a valued partner, an organization in the community. They are in the midst of a capital campaign that includes some infrastructure improvements and enhancements that will improve the services and experiences available for our residents. And basically, having this resolution of our support helps them go out and attract more funding from private and public sources for their capital campaign. This resolution does not commit the city to any financial resources, but it just, having the community and the city's support helps them in their efforts, fundraising efforts.
Could I ask you where this request came from? Was it from Chris Nelson?
Yes, actually.
I've been meeting with Chris Nelson on a monthly basis because
Right.
he's been asking the city for numerous financial allowances
Right.
on many different permits, fees, that sort of thing, of which we've been very helpful. And let me just say also that as my conversations have grown with him, of course, they're in a huge capital campaign and they would love for the city to put in all kinds of financial resources, which I told him that that would have to go through the budget process and be approved by council. Now, like I said, there are some things that we can do through permitting, and we can waive certain fees. Mr. Halsey, I think you'll back me up that some fees cannot be waived by law.
Correct.
So we are limited in what we're doing. I would also like to say that Chattahoochee Nature Center is a wonderful, wonderful partner for the city of Roswell to have. If you ask the average citizen, they don't know who. They think Chattahoochee Nature Center is part of
Is
Roswell.
the city, right?
So I do applaud them on this capital campaign, and I wish them all of the luck. As you said, I am not in a position right now to commit the city to a financial obligation. However, our support is, I don't think there's any reason to argue against it.
Right. Yeah, I mean, understanding that we don't have that the financial support may not be available right now. This is just a good.
Not right now.
No, right now.
It might not be
But-
available.
right,
I don't want to
exactly.
back us into
Right, sure,
anything.
sure,
and-
absolutely.
And
And that's
someone to
not-
watch this committee meeting and say, well, Councilmember Wilson said the financial support wasn't available right now,
Right, right. Well, I
which
don't-
indicates it might be in the future. I would just like to say that this doesn't include financial support,
Correct.
but this does include our support for everything they're doing. And they're a great partner for the city of Roswell.
That's absolutely the intention of the resolution, is just to show our support for the organization and their.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve by Councilmember Judy. Second by Councilmember Tizer. Any further questions or discussion? All in favor, please raise your hands. It's unanimous, thank you. Take a quick 1-minute break when we're reset.
No pressure, Libya.
45, 44.
Here he comes. That guy, a $500,000 man.
Terry, still nothing. I think they're gonna put something on at 5:30.
People are doing the same.
Mark. Good. Moving on to the Public Safety and Public Works Committee, regular meeting. First item on the agenda is the approval of minutes for the Public Safety and Public Works Committee meeting for February 11th, 2020. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve the minutes.
Motion to approve the minutes by Councilmember Tizer. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Judy. Any questions or discussion? All in favor, please raise your hands. It's unanimous. Thank you. Moving on to Public Safety, item number 2, consideration to proceed with the design phase of Fire Station number 8 at 11570 Mountain Park Road in an amount not to exceed $445,622.50. Chief Burnett.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. I'm here to talk just a minute about the design phase of Fire Station 8, which is at Ada Thompson Park in the area of Target. Mayor and Council directed staff to do an environmental study on the property to make sure that the design of the fire station would fit the property. That's been done, and the station will fit that property. In FY18 budget, Mayor and Council approved $490,825 for design money. After the environmental study, we do have $445,622 left in that account. As you know, ISO reviews us. They reviewed us in the last, since I've been here, in 2006 and 2015. And now we've just learned that they're coming back in July of this year to review us. Both of the reviews that so far recommended a fire station on the west side of the town. We'd had 2 independent studies done. Both of them recommended a fire station again on the west side of town. And our response times in that area, which is more important than anything, our average response times for the city is somewhere just over 6 minutes. Our average response times for that station, what would be Station 8's territory, is just over 9 minutes. So we will benefit greatly from being able to have a station there and obviously improve our response times. I will, at this time, I'd like to recommend, if we please, would move us forward to Mayor and Council, the design phase, and I'll answer any questions you have.
Floor is open.
Chief, do you have an estimate of what the fire station roughly will cost it?
Yes, sir. It's going to be the fire station, and if I reference back to, because when we first started talking with this group, when we talked about Station 4's design, and it was made clear that we didn't want to spend $5 or $6 million on a fire station. So we've cut the design from about almost 16,000 square foot down to 9,500. It's going to be more than likely a one-story. It all depends. This will not be any brick. So we're taking away a lot of the stuff and still trying to keep the integrity of the fire station. So given that, we're looking at site work and just a station, which will include artwork, somewhere around $4.8 million, just a little bit over that.
Chief, the site work cost is $1.7 million approximately.
Yes, ma'am, it sure is.
I know this is a challenging site,
Yes, ma'am, it sure is.
and what I am concerned about is that we're getting married to a site that is very challenging, and I'm not certain that that's the right site. So my question for you is on Station 4,
Yes, ma'am.
the most recent one that's been done. Oh, we could even go back to the one up by Gerard Landing, if we want to go back that far. But what was the site work cost on those two stations? Do you know off the top of your head?
No, ma'am, I don't know what the site work, obviously, the site work originally, what we originally intended was changed by mayor and council at that time, so it did make the price go up significantly. I don't know what that is. Does have a challenge, but what we have to keep in mind here is that we have the land, so we don't have to buy the land.
We've got a lot more land at Lita Thompson Park is my point.
Yes, ma'am.
So I'm not certain, my question is, do we have another parcel at Lita Thompson that might be more suitable for this and might be much more financially feasible?
At this, I mean, we haven't addressed it as far as going into the park. You can't go, if you were looking at the property from the target, looking over at the property, you can't go any further left up toward Highway 92 because that would put us out, that would be a traffic nightmare. So, and you can't go any further to the right side of it because of, we start getting into the, because there's some challenges with water and creek beds and stuff like that. So that's the reason this is where it's at. And when you look at, that's where we need this area. Fire station is in it, somewhere in this area. And the reason is when you do the circumference for ISO, we're only 0.2 of a mile outside the city limits, as opposed to, say, Station 7, we're 1.4 miles outside our coverage. So it's almost a perfect place. Plus, if you look around in that area, we haven't found anything for sale, you know.
Well, and what I'm getting back to, and I just think that it begs further discussion, is, for example, at Lita Thompson Park, we've got a dog park that is not functioning well. We're constantly getting complaints on that. To me, that would be a logical place to put a fire station. But, you know, I don't know. I'm not the expert. But what I do know is that we're talking about piping a lot of streams, putting a fire station on a very ecologically challenged piece of property that might have ramifications for the neighboring properties. So my question is, I don't feel as though I, as an elected official, have had the open discussion regarding this. I realize we've discussed it before as a body, previous council, and I would feel much more comfortable if we could have an in-depth discussion again and maybe thinking, you know, what the other possibilities are as far as building a fire station, and also to reduce the site work cost, which could substantially reduce the size or the price of the fire station.
Now, if you don't mind, let me point out that this site work also includes a road that will go from Mountain Park and connect up to Lita Thompson Park, where there will be an entrance. So in essence, those at the park, when they leave now, they have to go out, turn right, go and turn back around. This will lead them down to Mountain Park Road where they can exit from.
And that could also work in reverse.
Yes,
If we had a fire station where the dog park is, move the dog park, and have a road that goes out to Mountain Park. So I'm just questioning the $1.7 million in site work because I know how challenging that property is. I've walked it. And there are a lot of streams that we're going to have to pipe. And so to me, it begs the question, is there another site in that immediate area that might be more conducive to a fire station. That's all I'm asking.
Mary,
I just want to have the
And I
discussion.
don't,
are you saying this might be a good work session topic? Because we've got, I mean, if we're going to spend $5-6 million, then maybe lay it all on the line one day and say, hey, look, here's what we've got. Here's the properties around for sale. Here's what they would look like with the road coming out. Because then if you put a road coming out where fire engines might come out up to Mountain Park, you know, there might be some people upset with that. I don't know. So I think I'm in agreement with you that we probably need a further look.
It begs a discussion, and not to say I don't trust previous mayor and council, but I think someone at some point in time said, trust but verify, and I would prefer to verify. And I would be more than happy to call for a work session on this, and Chief, if you'll help me figure out when we can do that, when you're,
okay. Well, we
Your
obviously
workload
will need to
allows,
go back
and we can do
and
that.
look at the property
right.
to.
And we've got a budget coming up, so I don't want to delay a project. I think that this is a capital project that really needs to be on our books, and we need to move forward with it. That's not my goal here, it isn't to stall it. I just want to make certain we're doing it in a financially, fiscally conservative manner. And if there's another piece of property there, for example, back when it was discussed before, I wasn't around. So it could be that people didn't realize that the dog park was not functioning. And that's a flat, relatively flat piece of land, although the dog park problems are because it's on a hill. But it might be a good location that offers the reverse on the Mountain Park as well as 92. So I just want to make sure that we've looked under every rock. That's all.
Okay.
Mayor, do you want to make that a motion?
I'll make that motion, whatever I just said.
Defer this to a workshop to be determined?
Work session, yes, and I'll work with the chief to determine when that's feasible for our fire department.
I'll second that.
Motion's been made by the mayor and seconded by Councilmember Judy. Any further questions or discussion? All in favor, please raise your hands. It's unanimous. Thank you. Moving on to number 3, notification of emergency procurement from the fire department approved in the amount of $8,850.
Thank you. This is just an informational item. Back in January, we had the septic system back up in our engine bays at fire station number 6. That one of the pumps out of the 3 septic tanks was not working. They fixed that and then went in to empty the pumps, and it was full of solids. So what happened there, they had to dig down and found out that one of the pipes were broke. So they had to dig down 8 feet, replace the pipe and the drains. The work is complete, and again, this is just information. I'll answer any questions you may have.
Floor is open.
Motion to approve. Oh, emergency. This is the second time I did that. I like to approve emergencies.
Slow.
Any questions on this item? Thanks, Chief.
Thank you.
Moving on to Public Works, item number 4, consideration for the mayor and/or city administrator to sign an estimate to support agreement for relocation, removal, or adjustment of facilities in conflict with proposed transportation construction with the Georgia Department of Transportation for Atlanta Street utility relocation. Mr. Skowski.
Good afternoon. So this is a little bit unusual for us, but I want to walk you through it. We are proposing to have a cost-sharing agreement with the Georgia Department of Transportation cover a portion of the relocation costs of an existing water line between Highway 120 and Riverside Road. That water line was installed approximately 10 years ago, and we based that design on the original concept plans for the road project that is still in the works and working its way towards implementation. And a number of changes occurred in that design over the last 10 years. So there's some consequential impacts to our existing water line, some of which is new and some of which is old, that required to be addressed as part of the utility relocation plans with Georgia DOT. In order to qualify for the reimbursement program, we have to basically enter into an agreement agreeing to the cost share. Our designer was retained, and we brought this through council back in March, spring of this year, to prepare those utility relocation plans. They've done that. That's one of our standbys, ESI, that completed that work. And the cost share that's been agreed upon, at least in concept by staff, is a 76% compensation by the Georgia DOT for the relocation costs that are eligible for reimbursement, and 24% for the city. And those numbers are included in the item. It's currently estimated about 1.3 million for GDOT's contribution and 412,000 for the city. In addition to that, the water fund actually will be doing some betterments. So these are improvements to our system that have nothing to do with the road issue, of about $150,000. Regardless, we'll do those at some point in the future. And this project is currently scheduled for about 3 years out. At this point, there's no financial obligation other than entering into the agreement. If the project does move forward, GDOT's contractor would build it for us according to our plans included in their contractor's bid documents. So with that, I'll answer any questions. There's a lot of paperwork here, which is mostly GDOT's application form, but we appreciate the help from transportation staff here in the city of Roswell in getting it all put together to meet GDOT's requirements. Questions?
Floor is open.
Overall, this has to be done, and this is good because GDOT's chipping in, correct?
They're picking up 3/4 of the cost, and we think that's as good a deal as we're going to get.
This is not an emergency, so I can make a motion. Motion to approve.
Actually, just one quick question about what is the life of the project?
Typically, we plan on these water lines lasting 50 years, and some of them that we have lasted longer than that. Occasionally, we have materials that don't make it 50 years, but for the most part, that's a good life. So.
I'll second the motion.
Motion approved by Councilmember Judy, second by Councilmember Wilsey. Any further questions or discussion? All in favor, please raise your hands. It's unanimous. Thank you. Item number 5, consideration for the mayor and/or city administrator to award a task order to standby contractor Wade Coots Contracting Incorporated for the Willow Springs Lane Water Line Replacement Project in the amount of $100,153.05. Mr. Skelski.
So this is a straightforward small water line replacement project. It's an existing 2-inch line that we need to get rid of. We'll be replacing it with primarily a 6-inch line and some 2-inch or some smaller lines and a hydrant at the end of the cul-de-sac. It's about $100,000. It was awarded to the low bidder, one of our standby contractors. If there are any questions, I'll be happy to address them.
Floor is open. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve by Councilmember Wilsey,
Second.
second by Councilmember Judy. Any questions or discussion? All in favor, please raise your hands. It's unanimous. Thank you. We are polling item number 6, so we are adjourned.
Well.